One of Clinton's top supporters is chiming in on her debate performance.
President Obama tweeted Tuesday night, "Couldn't be more proud of @Hillary Clinton. Her vision and command during last night's debate showed that she's ready to be our next president of the United States." But Donald Trump says he won that debate. At a rally in Florida, Trump revisited many of the topics from Monday night and told supporters he was just holding back against Hillary Clinton.
Our country isn't working. So many things are going wrong. Last night, when I debated Secretary Clinton on America's future, for 90 minutes, I watched her very carefully. And I was also holding back. I didn't want to do anything to embarrass her. But I watched her, and she was stuck in the past. For 90 minutes, on issue after issue, Hillary Clinton defended the terrible status quo, while I laid out our plan, all of us together, to bring jobs, security, and prosperity back to the American people.
More than 81 million people watched that debate on television Monday night, breaking the record that Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan set in 1980. Let's bring in Leslie Sanchez, a CBSN political contributor and also Republican strategist, and also Lis Smith, a Democratic strategist. Ladies, thanks for joining us. Why are numbers so important in these debates? 81 million people?
Well, you had a lot of people for the first time on multiple devices. That's what's unique about this debate. Not only were they watching it on multiple channels through cable and network, but they were on mobile and in social. And that's what's unique, and I think the takeaway will be from this. People did it on demand in their own homes or whatever, or in crowds, but it was definitely the debate of this century in terms of excitement buildup and the insider versus the outsider. It was, everybody had their own champion in there, and they wanted to see what they looked like together.
Liz, I was talking to Leslie earlier, and I asked her if Hillary Clinton was able to do enough to move the needle in terms of those moderates, those folks who were perhaps reluctant to support her, were maybe deciding between maybe going with Trump, even though in the past they voted Democratic. And she didn't think that that happened. Do you think that it happened?
Well, look, it remains to be seen. We were talking before. I really am dying to see the data coming out of this debate. And look, I think she did a lot of things right last night. She answered the email question the best I've heard her answer it. She was great at baiting Donald Trump. I mean, he fell for every trap that she laid for him. But she was still just missing that overarching vision, the inspirational message that she will need to motivate millennials, to motivate Latinos, to motivate black voters. And we did see her connect and break through on a couple issues. I think on criminal justice, that was a shining moment for her. But if I were on her debate prep team, what I would say is, for the next debate, let's try to provide more of an aspirational message. Let's try to connect a little bit more. You know, study some of President Obama's debates maybe, but I think that was one area where she fell short, even though she did win the debate.
Leslie, Trump has said that he held back last night. Was that a mistake?
No.
She said
No.
no.
There were a few things we're sure of, but that one I feel quite confident.
But he keeps saying, we just heard him at a rally, he might unleash that. If you think it's a mistake to do it at a debate, is it a mistake to keep talking about it?
Well, there's the question. So what is he holding back? He's holding back all of these issues. He's implying the Jennifer
Monica
Flowers,
Lewinsky,
the
yeah,
Monica
let's say it,
Lewinsky,
Monica
all of those
Lewinsky,
things,
yeah.
which have absolutely nothing to do with this particular debate. She has so many failures and weaknesses and that he can talk about.
That's a good point.
Particularly, why do you want to get into that? That's really stuff for rallies and kind of ginning up the base, and you might hear some of that as you allude to it. But the bigger question is, and Liz it needed to be an inspired speech to appeal to women, and you're not going to get that, and you're going to lose the ground that the little bit of ground you made, where people are still possibly thinking him as somebody they could vote for, if you were attacking her directly on those issues. It's a troubled husband and a troubled marriage. You're just never going to win on that.
It would make her a sympathetic figure. I think it would be a disaster. And if you think about it, during the Monica Lewinsky scandal, you know, that's when Hillary Clinton had some of her strongest numbers. Not that I'm saying we certainly don't want to go back to that, but it would be a mistake for him to go there, and no one wants to see that debate. Look, this has been a really dispiriting presidential campaign. I think a lot of people on both sides would agree about that. There's been nothing high-minded about it. And I think everyone would all benefit from an elevated debate, and that would be a real race to the bottom.
Because, I mean, it's, I'm just curious as to why he thought to himself at the very end of that debate, especially, my H-bomb is talking about Bill Clinton's infidelity, whereas he could have talked about Benghazi, for example, which a lot of people, a lot of his supporters and people that are on the fence would have said, yeah, let's talk about Benghazi, not about what her husband did, 20 years ago.
Sure, and I think a lot of independent voters or independent conservatives would agree with you completely. What some people did expect to see, and they tend to have a reason to, this normally happens at this level in presidential debates, is to prosecute the other side. Benghazi, the crime bill by her president, failure of Obamacare, or the health care law she tried about. You could go on and on. I mean, there's so many different things, from Rose Law Firm to the email scandal you had right now. Poor choices. And the strongest line he had was, yes, you have experience, it's bad experience. That's actually the line that did the best. The rise of ISIS, that line particularly did the best. And his prosecution, the one he did have on trade and TPP and the gold standard, when he stuck to that and did not take the bait like Liz talks about, he did well. But on her side, she also kind of data dumped. We got an infomercial of attacks that he had on women. Oh, I have to get these out. It was almost like her talking points, and it was a non sequitur. I'm just going to talk about all the horrible things you said about women, and that definitely egged him on, and it got him off message. So I think for his supporters, they see that this is the first time he's debated one-on-one, a businessman, and he held his own with against somebody who's done this a dozen times in her career at that level. So there's a different measurement, and there's still another debate to come. So how he recalibrates is what's critical.
The only thing I would just say about that is the bar was set so low for him, and he managed, I think, generally to come in underneath that bar. Again, I don't think, and this is one of the things when we were talking about this, is this debate is really fascinating to me because I feel like both sides have kind of gone back to their polarized safe spaces. The Republicans are saying, well, it was rigged. Lester Holt was a terrible moderator. The mic was, purposely messed up for him. And Democrats are saying she nailed it. The race is over. And I think the truth is somewhere in the middle there.
This is the part we really do agree on. The truth is in the middle, in the flyover states, right? It's not the bicoastal liberalism. It's all of these, particularly the 7 states that are critical. So if you think about class, so 20% of the upper class is kind of talking, reading, have all the devices, saw the debate, really analyzing it, versus the rest of the country, which is really in a different spot, and they heard a different debate.
I want to ask you guys, though. So, Liz, you were saying that she didn't lay out a vision for America. I wonder, and I'll ask this of both of you, the vision that Donald Trump, when he talks about making America great again, he's talking about, to a lot of voters, the idea that this country is broken. There are a lot of people who say, no, this is the greatest country in the world. There are many wonderful things about the United States of America. But when you say that the inner cities are worse than Afghanistan, or that we're a third world country, I mean, I've worked in a third world country and reported from third world countries. The United States is not a third world country. But why are people responding to that?
It's not eloquent the way he says it, but you cannot deny that there is a decay of culture, economic development. There's a rise of crime in the inner city. You can't deny that. I think that overall we've worked. The question is whose solutions work. And he's making the case that Washington is broken, whether you're Republican or Democrat, and an outsider needs to come in and break up that system. I think people agree. They want our failed education school systems that we talk about. There's numerous areas, and a lot of Republicans believe Obama contributed to that. But the independents are what's interesting. You have a lot of people who voted for Obama, gave him the benefit of the doubt. They move and they swing back and forth. They're looking to who to give the benefit of the doubt to because they do believe we're not as strong as we can be.
And Liz, you love Trump's all is not inspirational?
Well, no, and again, that was one area where I think she did connect because she said that Donald Trump's very dark view of what is going on in the African American community doesn't reflect a lot of the success stories we're seeing. We can quibble over some of the facts, but again, I think she needs to go back to the bigger, more aspirational, optimistic message that she laid out in the Democratic National Convention, and we saw glimpses of that in her criminal justice answer. And I think if she can do that in a broader sense, spend less of the debate talking about herself, spend less of the debate just attacking Donald Trump, then she will motivate more people to turn out for her.
It's interesting that you say that, because I think that there have been polls that show so many people are uninspired
Right.
by this election, and you're saying that basically they need to step up and do some inspiring
Yeah.
to
No, absolutely.
to
Give
show
them
some inspiration.
a reason, especially for the middle and the working class, because they're hearing different messages and they're not quite sure who is going to help their personal situation.
Leslie Sanchez and Lis Smith, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, ladies.